today's world, providing business class service requires delivering a one-stop service experience. Moxtra powers one-stop customer portals, a digital branch for your business. Our platform can power your branded portal as a standalone web and mobile app. Deliver a digital branch with Moxtra.
How's everybody doing? I cannot believe that we're already at the last session of the day. But don't worry, this is only REimagine Day 1. Stay tuned. I'll be back after the end of the sessions to give you a little preview of REimagine Day 2. But for now, I'm honored to introduce this panel of fabulous women and a group dear to my heart, WomanUP. Take it away, ladies.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the WomanUP session. Today, we're talking about leaders rising up and taking action. For those of you who might not know what the WomanUP initiative is, it is a California Association of Realtors initiative, and we also are calling it a movement. It's a three-part mission that we have here to identify, develop, and connect women in brokerage, leadership, and ownership. We identify tools and strategies our community needs. We also provide resources and events to develop leadership skills, and we create opportunities, in particular in this season over on our Facebook group, to really bring the national brokerage community together to support one another. We have amazing men and women come to the table to build this industry with a strong, focused mission of diversity and a very inclusive mindset. So today we are actually going to be talking about this extraordinary year we have all experienced so far. Unique in its challenges, yes, for many of us, but it's also had many, many amazing opportunities. We've seen the pace of change accelerate right before our eyes. This wild ride, also known as a global pandemic, coupled with the renewed awareness of social injustice and the role our beloved industry has played in perpetuating it, has really changed the rules overnight for many of us. So join into this conversation with us. We look forward to connecting with you on how each of us has stepped up and out to meet the needs of our communities. We truly believe that we all have the power to show up, listen, empathize, and lead. So get ready, put your seatbelts on. We're going to share some stories that are going to inspire you to take action and create lasting waves of change in your community. Welcome, 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 ladies. Let's get this kicked off by introducing ourselves. Janet, how about we start with you?
Oh my goodness. Hi, how is everybody doing?
Good. How are you?
I am awesome. So I'm Janet Dorsey. I am currently the Director of Risk Management for Compass in Southern California. I have been in brokerage leadership and management for about 10 years, licensed for about 20 years almost. And then prior to that, I came from a telecommunications and software background. So I've got quite a varied background, lots of things I love. Primarily though, I love Audible and I love science fiction books. So
wonderful. How about you, Nina?
I am the Director of Strategic Alliances and Technology at Vanguard Properties, and I've been in that role for a couple of years now. So it was a transition from working in the real estate space to moving into brokerage leadership. And I'm also the immediate past president of the San Francisco Association of Realtors. And most recently, I have mastered the skill of making cocktails, and I'm sure you all can relate to that.
We need your best recipe later.
I love it. Mary Lee, how about you?
Yes, so I have been in this wonderful industry we are all in for almost 30 years. So I did start when I was 10, yes. And I have done literally everything in it. I sold real estate myself. I managed real estate offices. I ran a relocation department. Then I started a relocation company. And all of that, by the way, was in the state of Minnesota. And then I moved my family, picked them up and moved them to California in 2014. And my wonderful husband agreed to do that with our 3 children. They didn't really have a choice. And we set up our new life in California. And I am honored to be the leader of the president and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, California Properties. And I might be a leader in that capacity, but I have 5 sisters and 3 brothers. And in that world, I'm the youngest. So I get to say nothing.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. Holy smokes, that's a lot of brothers and sisters. That must be fun around the holidays, Mary Lee. Leslie, our dearest Leslie. How about you?
I wanted to just start and say, Mary Lee, I can't think of a better background for navigating the real estate industry than having all these siblings to deal with. I didn't know that before. That's incredible. Anyway, so I've been with CAR since 1984. It's been one of the most fascinating and unexpected experiences. And I don't really want to say of my life, because it kind of has been my life for so long, and just met amazing people and experiences, and seeing the economy ebb and flow and the cycles. It's really been a wild ride. But I am an economist. I'm the chief economist with the California Association of Realtors, and WomanUP has been my just dream job. You know, the passion for really helping the next generation maybe not make the mistakes, and maybe have higher aspirations, and just make a difference, you know, have an impact. So it's really been absolutely incredible. And then this is my last year. I'll be retiring at the end of this year, and it's very, very bittersweet, but I will be around WomanUP till the bitter end. You won't lose me there.
Awesome. Well, Sarah, how about you?
Absolutely not losing you. As the co-founder of WomanUP, we will never let you go, Leslie. I'm Vice President of Industry Relations and Strategic Initiatives at CAR. So that means I oversee our industry relations, membership development, inclusion, and strategic initiatives at CAR, including WomanUP. So, and I love what I do and who I do it with, including all of you. And that leads me to how Debra is here. And what about you? What do you do, Debra? Give us a little bit of background, because you are the woman in WomanUP.
Well, my goodness. So I'm a strategic consultant, and it's the easiest way to encapsulate all of the things that I do to empower leaders inside the real estate space. I partner with Sarah and Leslie and the amazing CAR team to truly empower the WomanUP community and expand the movement. Right now we're national, but we've also talked in Australia and Spain, and this is something that we can all come together and truly believe in. When I don't have my WomanUP hat on, of course, I'm a keynote speaker. I love planning and visioning events. Those of you who attended the virtual event that we had for WomanUP this year, yeah, that was my wild brain idea. When I'm not doing work like podcasting or writing books, I love watching 80s or sci-fi flicks while editing photos on my phone. I'm a dual screen kind of gal, and I love eating and drinking my way through everywhere my husband and I travel to see our friends. So that's me in a nutshell.
All right, well, let me kick it off with the first question of our interview here. And I just want to talk about this year. It's been incredible. It's been unbelievable. I'm engaged in strategic planning. Nobody planned for this. Certainly looking back, maybe there's things we should have done differently, but certainly it just kind of caught us all off guard, and there we were. So it's been a remarkable year. And what I wanted to ask you is, what happened when you realized how big this was going to be? And what's the very first thing that you did? What was your first response, your first reaction? I want to start with Nina.
Sure. I think for us, we were one of the first cities to go into shelter in place before even the state of California. And so it was a real big shock not knowing how long this was going to be. But I would say the first action is you spring into action. right? I think when you're in a leadership role and you're responsible for an agent community, you really come to that space with the what can I do and how can I solve problems. And so while, you know, others might had a chance to think about, you know, oh, what am I going to do with all of this spare time? I think some of us that are in leadership roles had to kind of grasp what we were going to have to do to help our communities and our families stay connected. And so that's really kind of what I did. I tried to be as helpful as I could, not just at work, but with family and friends, and really tried to help build that kind of community around me that I knew I was going to desperately need, depending on how long this was going to go on for. So,
and you know, when did you first realize that this was not going to be business as usual? Was it when the shelter in place came in, or a little bit before that? Do you remember?
No, I think we were really hopeful in San Francisco that, you know, people were going to follow the rules and that we would be, in a matter of 30 days, we would be back to normal. And I think it wasn't until, you know, the second month that we were in shelter in place where I think I had to ask myself, wait a second, you know, I had to check in with myself. There was that moment where you're like, this could go on for a lot longer. And you start to check your mental state and you think like, oh, am I prepared for this to go on for a lot longer than what I anticipate? And I think that was kind of my realization was month 2, where it's like, I've been home for 2 months, everything's canceled. There is, you know, the conferences for the rest of the year were being canceled. And I think that there was that realization, like, I'm not going to see people I love and care about until who knows when. Right. So that was I think for me, the big realization.
Yeah, no, that sounds familiar. Janet, what about you? What was your realization and what was the first thing you thought of doing?
Well, you know, my experience was a little different because my first realization was, you know, the day after the governor announced the shutdown. It was the day that our company decided, at the time, the company that I was with decided that they were going to take aggressive action, and they furloughed a number of employees. I was one of those people that was furloughed. So you talk about going from being, you know, the leader of a branch and within an organization to what am I leading? You know, where am I fitting into that? How it's almost like a loss, but not a loss, because you're just furloughed, but you're not really engaged, right? So you're looking for things to do to keep yourself engaged. And honestly, that's where I found my stride. It was really kind of an odd thing to not be within the company, but sort of be on the peripheral and then reinvent how I wanted to make an impact. My orientation is always to serve others, and I was just looking for ways to continue to serve. So lots of Zoom calls with people in the industry, my agents who wanted to be engaged within the company. We did a lot of that sort of engagement within, you know, the agent community. Within the industry, there was a group of people that got together and we decided that, you know, there's something that we can do for our industry with the other national conversation that was going on besides COVID. And that was, you know, on equity and fairness and where do we fit in with that? And I'm in the real estate industry. So how can I in the real estate industry make an impact? And it's within the real estate industry. So we focused on fair housing and had some awesome outcomes for that. And we'll talk about that, I guess, a little bit later.
Yes, we will. Yes, we will. Absolutely. Thank you. Mary Lee, what about you? What was your experience?
So I remember March 19th for us in Southern California was the night that the governor had the official shelter in place communication that came out. And we clearly knew it was coming because it was 7 o'clock at night and our entire executive team was still all in the office kind of talking about the what ifs, what would we do? And all of a sudden we were doing it. And so what I immediately did was I went live in front of the agents. We sent an email out to our agents and said, we're going to go live right now. and talk to you about what we don't know and just kind of muddle our way through. And literally my communication that night was, listen, this is big. We have no idea how big. At that particular juncture, we were deemed as non-essential. So everyone freaking out, and my email was blowing up. And so I just simply went on in front of them, and I made a pretty bold statement that I was like, oh my gosh, I have to live with this. And that was simply a promise. I said, here's what I know. I don't know a lot, but what I do know is that I dedicate myself to staying in such incredibly clear communication with you that it means if I have to go live in front of you 5 times a day, I will do it. Even if it's a little bit of an update, you will hear it from the company that you've chosen to be with. And that is my job and my responsibility to you. And we did that. And I have kept that promise from day one. And Leslie, actually, you participated in my live, just last week. But it was a big promise. And I remember for myself that, I mean, we got incredible responses just saying, wow, thank you so much. And I thought, I don't know what you're thanking me for because I have no idea what I'm doing, but we're going to figure it out one step and one bite at a time. And that's simply what I did. I just resolved myself to doing what I could do and doing it one step at a time and doing it with a calm.
You know, having had that experience being there, being there, on Zoom,
right?
But you could feel the community, you could feel the energy, you could feel the connection. It's really a beautiful thing, to show up like that. So anyway, well, I'm really interested to hear what Sara has to say in answer to this question. And I do want to just put in here before she starts that of everyone I was in contact with at CAR, Sara was the first to say, whoa, not business as usual. We have to be careful. And I just, I respect her for so many reasons, but I truly remember her being way ahead of the rest of us. Am I correct, Sara? Do you remember that the same way I do?
I was actually, it was mind-boggling at first how people were dismissing it. And to their credit, they wanted to, move on. And I didn't want to do an in-person anything. I think the first action I took was calling you, Leslie, and saying we need to tell people to get off airplanes and not get on an airplane from San Jose to Los Angeles just so they can meet with us.
Yeah, we had a strat planning meeting that first week in March.
Yeah, and that came right off the heels of a significant gut punch for me, which was my kids' school was probably one of the first schools, maybe in the country, to shut down. And they're a part of UCLA, so the colleges shut down, but the elementary schools didn't. But because they're an elementary school on the UCLA campus, they were right on it and right behind UCLA. And that was like, I think I called you and Joel too. It was a gut punch, and I got the wind kicked out of me. And then I was like, oh crap, what do we do now? And I think what the first thing we did was reach out to the brokers, right? And we immediately started emailing Mary Lee and Nina and Janet about what we did know. We had our attorneys. I mean, it was a whole concerted effort on the staff side of let's get whatever pertinent information is out to them. And we started emailing you right away. And then we had our first town hall with all the brokers in California on March 19th. And we've been doing those Friday broker calls ever since. And they've been well attended, lots of great questions. We feel so connected with our brokerage community because we were able to answer questions. And I attribute a lot of that to our legal team. I mean, our legal team had been working almost 24 hours, it felt like. It was just because it was very legal and it still is, right? But we wanted to protect our members. And I think that was the first and only goal when it came to our membership.
Yeah, I mean, Gov and Brian and June, it's like the rock stars, right? Yeah. Because those were where all the questions went. And it certainly I mean, I love our legal department, but even, you know, you just see when the rubber hits the road, this is what we need to know to, you know, do business. Debra. When did you first know, and what did you do?
Well, so I'm the odd woman out here. I'm actually in Washington State. So I'm about 5 miles from where the very first hotspot in the country was. And so I felt it the very last time I had actually gone out with friends was on Leap Day. So February 29th was literally, and it was at least 6 months until I saw them again, like where my husband and I actually went out. So we felt it pretty quickly here as far as like the energy and the vibe. And I mean, like the rest of the country, we're like, where's all the toilet paper? You know, like, what is this? This is weird. So personally, I think I felt it a lot sooner than a lot of other people that I know because Kirkland is literally right down the street from me. However, business-wise, you know, I've been practicing for pandemic living and running a business since 2012. My whole business is online. And so I went into who needs help mode. Like, who needs help learning Zoom? Who needs help setting up their lighting? Who needs help? Who needs help? Who needs help? Because I wasn't scared. I wasn't nervous. I did not have a learning curve. And so it was an awesome opportunity for a servant-hearted leader, right? To say, who needs me? And so I did a lot of that. I mean, for the first 6 weeks, I feel like I was on Zoom to teach Zoom.
Right.
But also, you know, Debra, I do want to comment on how, like, we were so focused on our members, and you were like, we need to connect with our WomanUP community. Yeah. They need us right now. And that's, you know, when we started doing a Friday afternoon session with our community on Facebook. So then those are still happening today. And it was all about leading through crisis. And, you know, we've had many of you on that as well. And that's been really beautiful. And you really led that. You know,
well, I think that's just it, Sarah, is that we all, when you work on a team where everyone really knows their strengths and knows their lane, it's really easy to say, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to focus here. And for me, being a community engager and a team builder and a connector, it's, you know, that was me at 3 on the playground. So it was easy for me to say, all right, so what do our people need? And what I loved most about that is that we were able to serve the WomanUP community and CAR at large. So we looked at all of the leaders and all of the different roles and said, oh my goodness, this is the perfect opportunity. All of these people would have normally been on the road, traveling around to all these different associations. Now let's give them the exposure in the Facebook group. And so all the Facebook group actually started asking questions like, well, how do I get that role? How do I become a leader inside the association? So it really connected the ecosystem in a way that I want to say we had an idea that it would, but we didn't have any idea how deep that would be. And it's amazing.
100%. So, you know, we talk a lot about surprises, right? And one of the things that surprised me the most throughout this shutdown was our resiliency, right? And I'm talking specifically about my kids because I think they took it so much different. They've taught me so much. My son was in his last year in elementary school, and that's big for a 6th grader, okay? It's not big, huge all over, but it's big for a 6th grader. And I mourned some of the things he could not do. But he didn't seem to care. He was fine. He's like, no, Mom, I'm good, you know? And he just rolled with the punches. And so that was really a beautiful lesson for me, but also a surprise. So I'd love to hear, let's start with you, Mary Lee, you know, over the last 6 months, what's surprised you the most?
Yeah, so much. There's so much that there's not enough time to answer it thoroughly. So I'll probably just pick a few things that I think are pertinent because, and I'm proud to say so much because that means hopefully I've learned something along the way because we should, right? But I think that the resiliency is definitely a key piece of what I've learned and what surprised me. But who? Like in a work environment, you know, you worked with these people all day long, but you didn't know the ones that you would really need in a foxhole with you if necessary. until you needed them. And they just rose to an occasion. It also surprised me, some of the people that I thought would be there, there aren't. And I'm like, that's not going to work long term. It just isn't. So that surprised me. My original understanding and or perception of those that I work closely with wasn't always right. So that was probably biggest number one surprise. The other thing was just the leadership skills that ended up having to just dig from the very core of your being that you didn't know you had. And for me, that was, some of it comes naturally, but much of it, because it was all unknown territory for everyone, was such a leap of faith. I had to rely solely on my gut and my instincts, because there's no playbook for this. And there's no, trends for this. There was nothing to look back to or forward to. You had to create the path yourself. And as a result of that, what surprised me is just the leadership skills that we have more within us that we have to tap into. But specifically, what I think resonates most with everyone, and this isn't necessarily a surprise, but just the amount of energy it takes to demonstrate them, are the authenticity, the true care and concern, because a lot of people are very concerned. So you have to have that empathetic heart, but you have to lead them to a different place at the same time. And it's an emotional, interaction. And I just found that fascinating, both from experiencing it, being in it, but then trying to lead out of it and being able to do that. And when everybody was talking about even the previous question that we went through and what did we experience, I have a new visual for myself, and it sounds crazy, but I'm going to throw it out there anyway. And that is when I'm feeling like the world is just kind of caving in, and it has felt like that, and it continues to feel like that. In my head, I literally think about like two things. One is either like Superwoman, when all of a sudden she comes out of the pile of debris that you can't imagine she's going to survive, and she's like, I'm here, I'm going to take on. And that's what I feel like I do. Or like the Rocky movie, when he's just not going to make it and then he's going to come back. I need those moments, and I have to kind of pump myself up. So that has surprised me. Like, me? Really? Wonder Woman? Let's go, sister.
Hey, we need our motivation, right? I mean, I love that. And I love the emotional intelligence that you have just shown in that answer, because it does take a high EQ to be able to realize that. So thank you, Mary Lee. How about you, Nina?
So I think this is like probably a twofold answer for me, and resiliency, obviously, yes. But for me, I think it was the community that was created in a virtual space. I think we go to conferences and we feel each other, we're next to each other, and we kind of gravitate towards that energy. And thinking about it in a virtual space, you wouldn't think that would have been possible. And there was so much that came out of that, where almost being behind a video screen allowed people the opportunity to really show who they were. And that was because we were in their homes, right? It wasn't that we were at a conference outside of our daily life. It was the dog barking in the background or the kids running behind the Zoom screen. There was a realness about being home and being behind that screen that people connected with each other, I think, on a very different level that you may not have been able to do in person. So I think that's one. And then the other part was, your own personal realization of what you're capable of. I think that, many of us, if we would have been given this scenario as hey, you have, option A, B, or C, we would never have chosen the option to like stay behind a screen and not be connected to people. But, I think that was for me, the biggest surprise was the level of connection that you can create from a technology perspective. And being in the technology world and trying to push industry to adopt technology to make our lives easier, this has just pushed that. I mean, we have probably moved forward 20 or 30 years in terms of acceptance of technology in the last 6 months than we have in the last, 15 years in the real estate space, at least. So imagine what that's going to do for industry once things start opening up and we're able to go back and do things the way that we were, but we still have this other component that we can work with. I think those were the two surprising things for me.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. You know, we were always shy about doing a virtual meeting, and we've done them, right? But we were, you know, not sure how it would happen or how we could get engagement. And to your point, it just happened. And there was communities that have been built in this pandemic. So yeah, 100%. What about you, Janet? What surprised you the most?
Wow. I mean, Mary Lee and Nina just kind of said what I had on my mind in terms of connectivity and resiliency. And as I'm thinking about all of this when they're talking, I thought, well, you know, there's a whole lot of other things that occurred. And adaptability was one of them, right? I mean, we incredibly fast adapted to this new environment, not just from an industry, but from, you know, God, I feel for, you know, the moms that have children. I mean, Sarah, you've got, you know, smaller children at home, and you're having to adapt to working from home as well as schooling from home and then being at home, right? I mean, everything's done in the home. But the adaptability of the agents, of the process, of how we get through, you know, just day to day, and then the connectivity. I don't think that as an introvert myself, that I realized the strength of community and connectivity to the level that I've experienced since this has all come about. I think as a nation of people, we always see ourselves as picking ourselves up by our own bootstraps and then just being everybody else's shoulder and not necessarily asking for help. We're very good at offering help, but not all of us are very good at asking for help and accepting the help and leaning on other people. And through this whole process, I think everyone has learned to lean on others a lot more. No one probably more so than myself. I am leaning on people like I've never leaned on before and am actually happier for it. And I think everybody else has been too. So part of that I'm attributing to this community because, you know, it's welcomed me with open arms. And Sarah, yes, you're doing that. And Debra, yes, you should be also, you know, patting yourself on the back because you're bringing me out a little bit.
I love it.
But it's important. And I think a lot of people have come to realize that importance and couldn't be underestimated.
Speaking of adaptability, we are adapting to internet connectivity. So bear with us.
Always.
And we are doing hard things, and we're just moving forward. So Debra, what about you?
So I think, you know, over the last, well, I'd just say 2020, just 2020 in general, right? We kind of came into it, you know, I'm all about the lioness pride and roaring and the roaring 2020. And I was like, this is just going to be amazing. And it's been amazing, just a different definition of amazing. And the resilience, yes, I've seen that. Perseverance, oh my goodness. I've also seen like this bold bravery. I've seen businesses open. I've seen businesses acquire and merge together to create something different than either one of the leaders had even imagined. And I love that. Like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily surprised me. It's tickled me. It's delighted me to see, in particular inside the WomanUP community, these women coming together saying, I'm a little bit uncertain about this. I need a little of that. Who's got what I need? And, you know, the rush to the table to serve whatever it is that someone else is seeking. You know, we have this vision in our minds when we say things like community and, you know, really getting connected to one another, but we've actually seen it in action. And our theme for this year in the WomanUP community was take action, in homage to our suffragette sisters. And even to Janet's point earlier, like we've learned things about our history And even inside the suffragettes, how they left our Black sisters behind in order to move things forward and didn't quite do the right things after that to make up for them leapfrogging. And now that's us. We get to do that because now we've learned. And this community with the book clubs and all the ways where they've literally been so hungry to come together and be the change we all seek, again, it's not a shock, but it's a delightful surprise.
I love that.
For sure.
For sure.
How about you, Leslie? Do you have something around that before we scoot to the next question?
I do. I think it's just a general statement of just how quickly change happens, and how quickly you can change when you have to. And I think someone said it earlier. I think Nina was talking about technological adaptation, and we've done more in the last 6 months than we've done in the prior 15 years, where a lot of these tools were available, but when it's sink or swim, you have to use them. And the kind of funny story I have about that is CAR was kind of dipping its toe into remote work really for a long time, but in terms of it being a way of doing business, I think we spent about a year, our wonderful HR team and Rick Schumacher, getting together our remote work policy. And I was looking through some papers this week and found an email with it attached, and the date was March 11th. And, it was very detailed, and it was about accountability and, did you have a high enough performance in order to get this wonderful opportunity to remote work? And literally by March 12th, it was like, here's your laptop, go home. And we are, we're going to do that. And I think the other surprise, and how quickly, really without missing a beat. But the other part of it has been the benefits of everybody being on the same page, the same platform. Before, if you were the remote worker, people might forget to, get you into a meeting, or you were always kind of a little bit, FOMO, you weren't with the program. But having everyone at home has completely leveled the playing field, and it doesn't matter where you are. And people have learned, we have an all-staff meeting every Thursday. People use the chat and get to know each other, and they're funny and they're engaged. And it's been a beautiful thing. And it has been very surprising. The other aspect of it is just the productivity has been higher. People are more accountable. It's been an incredible, and I think maybe also just having a mission to help our members. At CAR, we get a salary, right? We're not, unemployed every morning. And so when our members need us, it's honestly an honor to be able to deliver something of value to them.
That's so good. Well, I think rising up and taking action has looked different for every single person in this industry and on the planet. And I think that there is a lot of power in sharing what that means to each one of us. So I'd love for us to kind of round robin on that one, starting with you, Janet. When you think of what rising up and taking action looks like to you today, tell us about that.
Oh my gosh. I'll say it, I'll kind of condense it down to this. So I always seek to ask a lot of questions so that I can try to understand somebody else's needs, so that I can then in turn provide a service to them. I'm always looking for a way to do that. And, feeling myself that I'm adding value, that it's part of who I am and what I offer to other people. Always looking to ask those questions and understand what someone really needs so that I can help provide that, or point them in the direction that it actually is going to help them get what they want, right? So always looking for that opportunity and knowing that you can make a difference for someone else.
That's so beautiful. I actually just listened to Chris Voss was interviewed by Dax Shepard on The Armchair Expert. I don't know if any of you have listened to that, but it's so good. Chris Voss is like a international terrorist and kidnapping FBI negotiation expert.
Him.
He is fantastic. And he really does speak to that. Like when it doesn't matter what your conversation is, there's always usually at least 3 negotiations happening. And the way that you can serve the best everyone in that situation is to ask lots of questions, to listen and hear it, because the answer is always there right in front of you. You just have to listen for it. And I think that as women, we have learned to listen with our hearts in so many different ways, being, the traditional nurture and relationships around us, that I think that it really does give us a leg up in seasons like this. So I think that's so beautiful. How about you, Nina? What does rising up and taking action look like to you?
So for me, I think I've learned is it's a lot about presence and really just being there and being mindful and like awake in that presence. I think so many of us kind of go through the day-to-day where it's like you have your to-do list and you're just checking off things and realizing that, it takes a lot more effort to actually really be present in everything that you're doing. So that for me was a big kind of realization for me, that it's like, it really is about being present as a leader and being there and open and available for people to ask the questions and,
yes.
To listen. And similar to what Janet said is, you really kind of have to just be the ears that the people need so that you can try to find what it is that they need.
So good. Mary Lee?
So one word comes to mind, and it's perspective. And I think that when we rise up, we realize that, we might have what we consider a big problem, but it's really a first world problem and not a third world, there's many different definitions you can apply to it, but perspective, because our particular industry, so rising up and realizing that we're helping people with the very thing that they are supposed to go shelter in place in for safety. And that is just an honor. And while we have to deal with deals canceling and purchase agreements and all the legalese and all the new PEDs and all the other things that we have to do, it's worth it because we actually get to help them achieve their ultimate safety zone and keeping that in perspective. I just think perspective is what's a real problem, what's not a real problem. Let's just deal with it. There's a solution to every problem, and let's move on, folks.
That's so good. And I love how you encapsulated that, right? Like it's such an honor for us in this industry to be providing that place where so many people are sheltering. So beautiful. How about you, Leslie?
I think mine is really a companion to what Nina was saying about presence, and that is just visibility. Like if you are going to be a leader, you have to kind of get over yourself and be out there, right? And you have to model the change that you're seeking, right? And you have to be that for other people. So I find as an introvert, I step away and it's like, it's not good enough. It's not perfect enough. And, this whole environment has been changing so quickly that you just have to keep moving, right? Keep going. And as I said, just get over yourself and be there for other people and show them, talk to them. It's really just been an incredible experience. I think I have grown so much just by listening, and you reference the book, the WomanUP book club, and the conversations that we've been having in there. And it's just been an honor to just sit there and listen and let them be visible, and learn.
That's so good. Sarah?
Oh gosh, I think it a little bit dovetails on what Leslie was saying. It's reaching out, right? I think my form of action is checking in with the people around me, the people on my team, the people I'm working with, my colleagues, the brokers, WomanUP community. I think it's really important to take the initiative and reach out and check in on people. I think not a lot of people are doing okay, right? And to Janet, your point, I have young kids at home, but they're pretty resilient, right? They don't need my attention like other, younger kids. And I feel for them. I just do. And so reaching out would be my number one form of action.
I love that. And I would say, I would close that up by saying, for me, being the person who is the fire for so many, that person who helps people get unstuck. Taking action for me has really had to shift in reminding everyone that you can't be everything to everyone. You can't lead every charge. You can't march in every march. You cannot do it all. And so to quiet down, listen to this still small voice and truly what you're being called to, and focusing there, and then reaching out and supporting the other women and men who are listening to their call, and releasing any kind of shame or guilt for not being everywhere all the time to everyone. Taking a deep breath, right? Okay, so I think we're at the end of our questions. I know, Sarah, you've got some ways to get us all connected and so forth, so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, so we have, if you're interested in getting involved or learning more about WomanUP, you can visit us in the CAR room lobby, and you'll see one of our leaders, one of our volunteers, one of our wave makers, and they'll get you all hooked up and plugged into the WomanUP community. We have a Facebook community, and we have all of these amazing women here and so many more in the broader community. So that's the way to get connected with WomanUP.
Yes.
And do we want to do a quick, what's your favorite book? 10 seconds each.
Sure. I think so. How about you, Mary Lee? You want to start off by what book? What's the book you just finished, or you'd recommend everyone?
Yeah, so I go hard all day, so I can't read books because I fall asleep. So I listen to podcasts. So mine is Simon Sinek. I mean, hands down.
Janet?
Well, I listen to a lot of Audible books as well, but I will tell you the things that are on my bedside are all related to the Dalai Lama. The ones that I really like are The Art of Happiness and the Dalai Lama's Book of Transformation. That one is a really small one, but it's really essential. Very nice.
Love it. Nina?
For me, I'm going to say The Alchemist, because I feel like even right now in this moment, that book transports you into a completely different way of thinking. And for me, it's a book that I read every single December. I love it. And I think that the community would benefit from that read. So The Alchemist.
Leslie?
Well, for our kind of fair housing book club at CAR, I'm reading Race for Profit, and I am on a mission to educate myself and learn the history that I never learned in my formal education. So that's just one part of it. Color of Law, White Fragility, I mean, on and on. There's a lot to learn before you decide on your opinion, and it's been a journey. I've learned a lot.
I love that. Sarah?
Awesome. Well, in addition to all of those, I'm reading Cast by Isabel Wilkerson, which is really good. An Oprah recommendation. Debra?
Yep. Yep. So I am listening to I'm Still Here by Austin Channing Brown. Amazing. If you can listen to any podcast she's on, you will be inspired. And I've got Untamed on loop as I walk. That's by Glennon Doyle. She is a spitfire. I think that you've gotten the idea from even the books that we're talking about, that the WomanUP community is all about learning, growing, getting connected, staying woke whenever possible, and reminding each other when we're starting to fall asleep that we're here and to support each other. So join us in the CAR room. Like Sarah mentioned, you can always find out about us on IamWomanUp.com. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
What a day. I hope you all had a fantastic time at the first day of the REimagine Real Estate Virtual Conference and Expo, because I know I did. I feel like I've already taken in so much new information, and we're just getting started. Tomorrow's can't miss content includes superstar coach Tom Ferry, the official CAR 2021 housing forecast, and all the info you need on consumer behavior, virtual transaction tools, and lots more. Get some rest tonight, because tomorrow's going to be another jam-packed day, and you don't want to miss any part of it. It's been a pleasure guiding you through this show today. Have a great night.